Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is Ironsworn, Antarctica. Let's go over the previous session and what happened. I made a couple of mistakes, and so at the end, I just want to kind of sort of almost retcon, just fix the mistakes. So in the last session, we got into a battle with some guards at the east gate. We made those guards surrender. A couple of them ran off. We made the rest of them surrender. The prisoners, the former prisoners that we had freed and given swords and daggers, took the axes of these guards and then led them off into the woods. So one of the things I forgot about was, what had happened to those guards. We'll assume that they were taken to the town where these other prisoners were from, which is called Highmount. So they've been taken back to Highmount. Wiglaf then went back to the temple of Angus, who is the god of death and decay and endings, where Sabine's wife and children and the family members of the other prisoners had been taken as sacrifices. And he got lucky with some strong hits and found that they were not being guarded, and he was able to free them and sneak them out and escape the depths, escape the stronghold of the town of Duskmoor, and they got back to the Red Hall, which is the hunting lodge where Wiglaf came from and where Sabine was waiting. At that point, I attempted to fulfill my vow, and we got a weak hit, which means that you need to do another iron vow. And then I tried to forge a bond with Sabine, and I got another weak hit and had to swear another vow. And I said, well, I'm just going to sort of make them the same vow, but I'm thinking about it. I want to make them two different vows, right? I think that because we swore to find the truth behind the death worshippers, and we swore to stop the reckless warmongering of Kova. Now, what we've determined is that Angus, the death god, and his zealot worshippers are kind of somehow behind what Kova is doing. Basically, Kova is going out and trying to sort of win territory and bring sacrifices back and converts back for this death cult. And the death cult is trying to bring about the end of the world, which perhaps is what started the Great Cataclysm, and maybe they're trying to finish it. So he wants to find the truth behind the death worshippers and stop Kova. It's not necessarily the case that doing one is going to do the other. He might find all sorts of truth and find out exactly what happened with the death worshippers, but not be able to stop Kova. And similarly, he could draw the circle, i.e. duel Kova and kill him, and still not learn anything about the death cult. So I think these need to be two different iron vows. But in addition to that, swearing an iron vow is a move, guys. So we have to roll on it and see if we get a strong hit or a weak hit or whatever. And so we have to hope that we don't miss on at least the first one, because otherwise it's going to cause a bit of a retcon. We have 4 momentum, so we don't have a lot to work with. I've also modified the map a little bit. What I did was I'm back into Wonder Draft, which, by the way, is an awesome map-making program, which is what I drew this all in. And I added labels to the names of the towns. So all I've got here, because they were all overlapping each other, so all I've got here now are just the links, right? And I mentioned here, Wiglaf rescued 8 prisoners from Duskmoor on his first quest, and what we need to also write down is 3 captive guards from Duskmoor are being held here by the wardens. And so, my thinking is if we want to gather information, it might be worth traveling to Highmount to do that. Right, traveling from Red Hall to Highmount. And I think that's maybe a far enough trip. It's only 3 or 4 hexes, but maybe we can undertake a journey and do a little bit of that as we travel to Highmount. Sort of do a hex a day, and it'll be just a troublesome, super easy journey. But it's through the mountains instead of along the river, and so maybe we have to roll for it. But before we do any of that, we have to make sure that our iron vows are going to work. So let's go to the moves and swear an iron vow. So the first iron vow that we are attempting to swear is we got a weak hit on the first move that we made, which wasn't the bond, but which was the fulfill the vow, right? We got a weak hit on it. And if you get a weak hit on fulfilling the vow, it says that you can swear an iron vow to make things right. Right? So there's more to be done. We realize the truth of our quest. And so what Sabine said was, if this is still going on, right? Or actually, that was when we forged a bond with him. So when we got back, we said, after fulfilling the iron vow, this death cult is behind things, and we realized that we had to check into it. Right. So first, let's swear this iron vow. We're rolling it plus heart. We have plus 4 heart. And we are swearing this vow to the community of Red Hall, right? The people in Red Hall. So we have bond with Red Hall, so we add a plus 1. So we get a 2 on our action die, plus 5 is 7 against a 9 and a 3. We get a weak hit. So we're determined, but we begin our quest with more questions than answers. Take plus 1 momentum and envision what we do to find a path forward. Well, I think what we're going to have to do is investigate this cult more. And one possibility is going to be to go and question the guys in Highmount. And we probably also want to ask some things of Sabine's family, because they were held in the temple, and we can maybe ask them some questions about this death cult and see what they know. The other iron vow that we have to swear is, and when we went to make our bond with Sabine, he said, how do I know that I can even go home again? We're here in Red Hall right now, but my farm was burned down, and if we go and rebuild it as the summer comes along, how do I know these guys aren't going to just come back? He's a reckless warmonger. Somebody has to stop Kova. And so we swore an iron vow to stop Kova. And so now we do not have a bond with Sabine yet, because this happened when we made our bond with Sabine. So I feel like we can't really count this. So we're rolling it plus 4 here with heart. And we get a 1, plus 4 is 5 against an 8 and a 3. So again, we get a weak hit. And again, we have more questions than answers, and we take plus 1 momentum. So that's fine. We got our iron vows, but we did what we were supposed to do, got a little bit of momentum with it, and we made our roll. So this is really what we should have done in the previous session. So now we have our iron vows, and we know what we want to do next. At this point, Wiglaf, I think everybody's tired and exhausted, and it's nighttime. So they partake of a dinner, and then Wiglaf is going to go back, and he's going to kind of rest and relax in his cabin. So now he doesn't have infinite time, because Kova's still a warmonger. The prisoners were freed. They might decide to go back to either Longhaven or Highmount or whatever and get revenge. So Wiglaf is going to need to start investigating this fairly quickly, which means he doesn't have the time to spend using my optional move in Sojourn. Without sojourning, we're in a friendly settlement. He can gain a health or a spirit, but his dog is down to only 1 out of 4 health. And so we really need to kind of heal that up a little faster. So I think what we're going to do is spend time in Red Hall, ask for some supplies and help, get some food. We share a bond. We roll plus heart with the bond. It's plus 5, right? So because we have plus 4 for the heart and plus 1 for the bond. And by the way, in case you haven't figured it out, heart is an awesome stat in Ironsworn. It doesn't really help you that much in combat, right? But having heart as your max is awesome for all of the social moves, and especially for vows and things like sojourns. So we're going to do a sojourn here and hope to get a good hit, because on a strong hit, we can choose 2 of the items here, right? And this is includes yourself and your companions, I believe. Yeah, it includes yourself and your companions. So what we want to do is get 2 of these so that we can increase our supply is down, and we also can increase our health, because both we and the dog are low on health. So let's go ahead and roll our sojourn. So Wiglaf goes back to his cabin after having a nice meal, hopefully with Nan and his wife, Owena. And we roll a 3 plus 5 is 8 against a 7 and a 4, so it's a strong hit. So you can choose 2 from within the categories, but you can't choose the same one twice. So we're going to recuperate and take 2 plus 2 health for ourselves and our companion. And we're going to provision, which is to take 2 supply. And that will bring our supply back up. And that will bring our health back up. And then if we go to our asset here, it will bring our hound back up to 3 rather than 4. Now in the sojourn move, what you can do on a hit, you can focus on one of the chosen actions and one of the chosen recover actions and roll plus heart again, plus 1 for the bond. If we get a strong hit, we can take another plus 2. We get a weak hit, we can take another plus 1. So we could, if we focus, we could potentially get the hound all the way up to plus 4 health. It's risky because if we roll a miss, we're screwed, right? We'll lose all the health benefits that we got. I don't think I'm going to do that. The hound is probably going to be okay. He's got 3 out of 4 health, and we can always send him out away from danger if he gets hurt like we did the last time. So they bandage up our Griff, our husky, and he gets a nice meal. You know, we give him a nice big bone from the meal and to gnaw on, and they give him some nice warm water, and he's happy and he's feeling a lot better, and we get a nice good night's sleep, and we wake up the next morning refreshed and much better, and it's the next day, which I believe is August 26th. And if we look on our light regime here, we can see that by, as we're getting toward this line here, we're at the bottom of August, we're getting some hours of daylight, right? Between like maybe 12 and 2 in the afternoon, or 1 and 2 in the afternoon, 1 and 3. You're getting maybe an hour or 2 of actual daylight, and then some hours of civil twilight that actually go from about 9 in the morning till about 6 at night, where it's like this pictured on the left, so just after sunset for several hours as well on either side of that. So it's getting a little lighter. The snow is still there, but it's not snowing anymore, and soon the snow is going to start melting as the sun comes back. Again, remember, this isn't our Antarctica, so it's not always frozen and icy. It's a much warmer but still cold continent, kind of like very northern U.S., like, say, North Dakota would be. So now what we want to do is think about how are we going to have this character, what are we going to do with this character? What's the next move we're going to make, right? And I think what Wiglaf needs is information. And so he's going to trudge through the snow that's more than knee-deep with Griff, and they're going to go back to Red Hall in the morning for breakfast and some food. And at this point, Wiglaf is going to, Sabine is still there with his wife and his 3 children, and of course Nan and Awina, and they're kind of sitting around this long wooden table. And the kids are, the table is long, but it's not that big, so the kids are kind of sitting at like a little side table, like a kid's table, but it's probably just like a stool that they're sitting around on they're like on their feet with a little stool in between them, and they're eating their breakfast, some kind of, I don't know, like porridge. And maybe they got some eggs because there's a chicken coop and so on. And Wiglaf starts chatting with them, and he says to Sabine's wife, who, let me see here, I don't remember her name, who's Nazmi. He says to Nazmi, I really need some more information. And so he says, you guys were captive for a couple of days in this town, and they were getting ready to sacrifice you. What is the name of this god? And what's this cult really doing? It seems like some sort of a cult of sacrificing people, but I don't really understand it. What did you pick up anything? Did you hear anything? Did they tell you anything? So the question is, we don't know if Nan knows anything about the cult. Did they talk to her about this, or did they just say, we're going to sacrifice you? Does she know perhaps if this is where the center of this worship is, or if it's somewhere else, that kind of thing. So You could potentially roll the Oracle and see, but I think this is a gather information move, right? He's asking questions and conducting an investigation. Now, our asset, the Hound, is sharp, and so we gain a bonus for gathering information when we use the Hound's senses. But we're not using the Hound's senses here. That dog is probably lying at the feet of the children, and they're feeding him eggs, scrambled eggs from their plates, and he's having a good time, and they're petting him and scratching his ears, and he's not listening, and he can't really help with questioning someone about a cult. So we're just, unfortunately, rolling plus wits here, which is only +2 on our character. But we are asking within a community that we share a bond with. Now, these guys aren't technically member of are technically from Longhaven, not Red Hall, but we're in Red Hall, and we're acting within a community that we share a bond with. And we did just save these people. So I think the +1 is reasonable. And we get +2 from our wits, so it's a total of +3. And what he's going to do is just ask, what do you know about this cult? And I think sort of on a strong hit, they know the name of the god, they know it's a death cult and whatever. On a weak hit, they'll get some information. He will get some information, but not all of it. So let's see what he finds out. We roll 2 on the action die. +3 is 5 against the 6 and an 8. It's a miss. So the investigation unearths a dire threat or reveals an unwelcome truth, and we have to pay the price. So, well, it's a dire threat. So I don't think she's going to know that. So I guess she does know the name. But it can't be something helpful or specific. So she tells him that this is Angus, the god of death and decay, and that these guys are trying to bring about the end of the world. That's what she thinks is happening, but she doesn't really know any more about it, so it doesn't really give him any more information, and now we have to pay the price. So let's see what options we have. The person loses faith. They're exposed to danger. We're separated. An action has an unintended effect. A new danger or foe is revealed. Okay, so I think a new foe is revealed here. I think she says that there is someone or something that is actually in charge of this cult, and that Kova isn't the one in charge. That Kova is actually following the orders of someone or something else. And then the question is going to be, what? Right? Does she know is a great question. Does she know who the other danger is? Or is she just saying he's taking orders from someone or something else? So let me think about that. I'm going to pause it here. I'm going to think about it, see what I come up with, and then I'll bring you guys back. All right, so I've had to think about this, and I think what she knows is simply that there is a hollowed out thing that seems to be giving the orders to Kova. To us, it is a husk. Husks are all that remain of an Irelander whose body, mind, and soul has been hollowed out by dark magic, the dark magic of Angus. Now, this husk is probably not in charge of the whole religion, but is in charge of Duskmoor. And it's actually pulling the strings of Kova. And so she knows that there's this thing that seems hollowed out and has these sort of clawed fingernails and withered flesh and sunken black eyes. And it has this dreadful howl, and it seems to like be able to control things around it, and this husk is somehow in charge. I don't think it actually lives in Duskmoor, but it's pulling the strings. So there's something pulling the strings, and that means the husk is formidable. And I think because we got a miss on this, I think this is going to upgrade the quest from dangerous to formidable, or formidable, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And oops, I made a mistake. That was the quest we finished. We're going to change the find the truth behind the death worshippers vow. Why is this not erasing here? Come on. I don't know why that's not erasing, but we're going to make the Death Worshipper's vow go from, oh, there we go, now it did it. Go from dangerous to formidable. So we have 2 formidable tasks here. And if we look at swearing an iron vow, that means that we get 1 progress per milestone we reach. So each of these quests is going to take 7, 8 to 10, up to 10 steps before we can finish them, whereas the dangerous vow only took us 4 or 5 steps, right? So these are going to be longer and more involved. So we now have essentially an upgraded iron vow. So we have 2 formidable iron vows. We have 6 momentum. And one thing I do want to point out, like so last time, we got 1 experience. Can't do anything with it yet. To upgrade an asset, to add another dot takes 2, and to buy a new asset takes 3. So we're going to have to complete one of these iron vows with at least a weak hit, which will get us a couple more experience, and then we can either get a new asset, which I think I want to do. I have a couple in mind, or upgrade Skirmisher, perhaps, or upgrade the Hound, or what have you. All right, so now we know that there's something else in charge, and that's really all we know right now about the Death Worshippers, because we rolled a miss on gather information. So now Wiglaf has to decide what to do. And again, I think that he's going to go to Highmount, and he can do he can do several things in Highmount. First of all, he can talk to the former prisoners, the 8 people that he saved, both the prisoners and the sacrificial victims. Second of all, he can try to question the guards. And third of all, I think there's a possibility that there might perhaps be an Iron Priest around here somewhere. And what we'll do is we'll go to as we go to each settlement, if we're looking for an Iron Priest, remember these guys that worship the Iron Pillars, maybe the Iron Priests, as sort of a rival religious faction, might know something about this. Maybe even the Iron Pillars are here to prevent this or something. I mean, we'll have to see. The other thing is we do have this background vow against Grendel. We haven't made any progress in that yet, and maybe we will. One of the things I had thought about is whether Grendel is potentially related to this whole thing. So one of the ideas I maybe had, and who knows, it may tie in, is maybe the Great Cataclysm was these Grendel creatures were released. But I had trouble figuring out why would the death cult be associated with these sort of giant velociraptors. It doesn't seem like that works. They're more about death and decay, so that's why I discarded that idea. So it's all about sort of what works and trying to come up with a narrative that makes sense. So it's now late morning. Wiglaf's had his breakfast. We're now in sort of civil twilight, and the sun's getting close to rising in another hour or 2. So Wiglaf says, look, I'm going to take some supplies, and I'm going to set off, and I'm going to go to Highmount, and I'm going to see if I can talk to the prisoners, the former guards who are now prisoners, and the former prisoners who are now the freed members of Highmount, and see what they know, and see if I can figure that out. So I think we're going to go ahead and undertake a journey. And so this is an adventure move. And when you undertake a journey, you start a new progress track. And I think it's going to be a troublesome journey. He's only going a few hexes, so you get 3 progress per waypoint, which means basically it takes about 3 steps to get there. It's not quite 5 hexes, but I think it's fine to do that. So let's go ahead and go back to our player character and go to our progress tracks. And we're going to undertake a journey to Highmount. So we're going to Highmount now. Let me sort of line this up. And this is a troublesome journey. So it shouldn't be super hard to get there, I hope. But you never know with Ironsworn, because you can always roll a miss and something bad could happen. So this is a troublesome journey. And I will go ahead and mark that right there. So we get 3 boxes for each and every success we have. So let's go ahead and we get our dog, we get our supplies, and we strike out. and Wiglaf is going to move or attempt to move into the next hex. So let's zoom in. And basically the idea is we're starting in Red Hall with Wiglaf here, and we have to just go 3 hexes, right? 3 or 4 hexes. So let's start and go into the first hex. And we're up in the mountains. And now we have to undertake our journey. So Wiglaf departs. The sun is up at this point, just peeking over the horizon. He slings his shield over his back along with his backpack. He uses his spear as a walking stick, and he sort of starts climbing up into the mountains and following some of the game trails. There's snow-covered pine trees around him, and the dog is, sort of barking and leading the way. And Griff is happy to be out, and he's feeling his oats because he's healed up most of his wounds. So his side is still kind of patched up a little bit with a bandage, but he doesn't care about that, and he's running along in the snow with his paws. And Wiglaf is sort of laboring along behind him, leaning on the spear with both hands and sort of, like a walking stick, and moving his way through. And so we're going to across hazardous, it's not unfamiliar, but hazardous lands, and it's a troublesome journey. And for each segment, each hex we get through, we're going to roll plus wit. So we need a hit to get into the next hex. If we fail, we've reached some trouble in our current hex. So I've moved us into another hex, but we haven't really left the Red Hall hex yet. And we're going to need a hit. So we're rolling plus wits, and we're setting off from a community with which we share bonds. So we get +1 just on this leg of the journey, which gives us +3. This is hard, and I think eventually I might want to get something like a Hawk Companion, because they can help you with this. The Hound does not help you with undertaking a journey, unfortunately. So +3, and oh boy, we rolled a 3 against a 10 and a 6. So that would be a miss. Can I zero that out? I can't. So we missed. So we set out from Red Hall. We have not even got into the next hex. Instead, we're still in the Red Hall hex. It doesn't mean we're at Red Hall, right? Each of these hexes is... No. I've got to grab this one. Come on. This is annoying. I've got to figure out a different way to do this. Come on, Wiglaf. Okay. Put the Red Hall one back. All right. So we're still in the Red Hall hex, unfortunately. Actually, let me move the Red Hall one out of here. You know what? I think I'm going to get rid of these markers, because they're just in the way. So Wiglaf is still stuck in Red Hall. He's left Red Hall. He's a few miles away, but we got a miss. So we are waylaid by a perilous event. Pay the price. So let's see what happens when we pay the price. So the most obvious negative outcome are revision 2 outcomes, and rate 1 is likely. Maybe a surprising development, a delay. The current situation worsens. Okay, so I think either we're going to get attacked, or a storm comes through just as nightfall hits. Before we've gone maybe 10 miles from Red Hall, we get hit with a storm. So I think a storm is likely. And if it's not the storm, then it's going to be some sort of an animal that's going to attack us, like a wolf. And I'll figure out what the animal is. But first, let's go to ask the Oracle. And likely is 26 or greater. So is it a storm? Does a storm roll in? 34. So yes, it is a storm. And a storm rolls in. So we're just a few hours out. The day looked great, and all of a sudden a storm rolls in, and snow comes in, and there's even lightning with the snow, and it's a nasty, nasty storm. And so we can't advance. We don't reach a milestone, and Wiglaf and Griff find a little bit of a shelter under an overhang of rock, and they huddle together under the rock, and Wiglaf tries to find enough materials to make camp, and we don't really get anywhere. So now one of the moves you can do is make camp. So we're going to try to rest and recover and make camp and see if we can get through this evening. So we roll plus supply. We have +5. We have plenty of supply. And we get a 5 + 5 is 10 against a 2 and a 4. So that is a strong hit. So we can choose 2. We gain +1 momentum, and we can get +1 more health for Griff. So even though the storm was bad for us, we actually were able to make camp, set up a fire. We're in a little bit of an overhang that creates enough of a shelter and blocks the snow from covering the fire. It keeps us warm. We huddle up with Griff the dog, and Griff recovers a little bit, and so he is back to normal, and we gain +1 momentum. So that actually ended up not being too bad because we were able to successfully make camp. However, a day goes by, and we aren't any closer than we were before, really, to getting to Highmount. So now the next morning, we're going to have to undertake a journey again. And let's see, I think based on the success of undertaking a journey or not, we'll see whether or not the storm gets any better. So in the morning, Wiglaf wakes up, opens his eyes, and says, okay, can we get through this, or are we going to be stuck here in the storm again? So let's roll. And again, we're rolling at plus wits. We have 7 momentum now, and we're at +2 because we're not setting out from a place where we shared a bond, because we already left that yesterday. And we roll a 5 + 2 is a 7. But guys, I rolled a 9 and a 10. So it's another miss. So I interpret this to be the storm is going to continue. It is so bad that Wiglaf is just stuck in this overhang. Griff is whining because he's bored, but he doesn't want to go out because it's this horrible storm. Again, snow with lightning, blizzard conditions. Wiglaf is able to gather some more nearby wood and dry it off next to the existing fire and then feed it to the fire so they can keep the fire going, but they can't actually get anywhere. And I think at this point, in terms of pay the price, I think at this point we're going to, where is it? I think there's a way for you to lose supplies, right? It wastes resources. I think at this point we're going to lose 1 supply, right? Because we've had to eat 2 days worth of food and we haven't gone anywhere. And I think we're now at +4 supply. So Wiglaf is in a pretty bad spot right now because we haven't done anything to improve our situation, but we're kind of stuck until we can get out of here. So Wiglaf is going to lose a supply, and we're going to try to camp again the next night. We can try to use the prepare here, but let's see what happens. So we're rolling plus supply. It's at +4 now. And we get a 6 + 4 is 10 against a 9 and an 8. Boy, these 10-sided dice are being mean to me tonight. But that is a strong hit. So we get 2. We don't need any additional health. So instead, we're going to take +1 momentum. And we're going to take +1 on our next undertake a journey. So that'll help us a little bit. And we have 8 momentum now. So that means we can zero out anything 7 and below. So Wiglaf, they stay there another night. They are able to find enough. He's able to go out far enough to get some wood and bring it back. And again, dry it out by the fire and feed the fire some more. And he's got his dog with us. And he's got some dried meat and some food for his dog. So they're okay. But now they've lost a little bit of their supplies. They're at +4. And now we're going to try to undertake another journey. And I don't know if we're going to be able to finish this journey here, guys, because we're already at 34 minutes. If we keep failing at it, we may not be able to. So now we're rolling at +3 wits, +1 for the camp. And we roll a 6 + 3 is a 9 against double 3s. So not only do we succeed, but we find an opportunity of some sort. So, so that gives us 3 progress. And I'm just going to quickly mark it here, and I'll turn it into the these pretty ones later. I've got them down here, one to just make a copy. But so we get 3 ticks, and we make a bit of a we make it to another waypoint, what they call a waypoint. So we make it to a spot. So in this case, we finally get out of the red hall hex and into the second hex, right? So this is going to be like 1, 2, let's see, 1, 2, 3 hexes. I'm in the wrong place, this hex. So we're now 2 hexes from Highmount, and we find an opportunity. So the question is, what kind of an opportunity are we going to find? There is a find an opportunity oracle, which we can take a look at. Or no, it's a move, sorry. And this is for delving the depths. But we can take a look. The terrain favors us. We locate a secure area. A clue offers insight or direction. We locate a helpful object. So here's an interesting one. Is it possible, let's ask the oracle, is it maybe the case that this opportunity we're going to find is going to be an iron pillar? These inscrutable iron pillars that are in random places around the Ironlands. Is that what we're going to find? And perhaps there will be an iron priest at this pillar who will tell us something about the pillar. Before we do that, I do want to point out, with undertaking a journey with a strong hit, reach a waypoint, we make good use of resources and mark progress, or we move at speed. And this is a waypoint, so it's supposed to be something interesting for us. So we're not gaining momentum, right? We're just reaching a waypoint, but the waypoint should be something. Is it an iron pillar? I think it's likely. I think this sounds kind of cool narratively, so I'm going to say it's likely that it's an iron pillar. Is it an iron pillar? We roll a 35, so it is an iron pillar. So we reach sort of a sheltered area. I think this is like between like 2 mountains where there's kind of there's a mountain on one side, a mountain on the other side, and there's sort of a natural kind of a bridge between the 2 mountains, not man-made, just rock, and it's high enough up that it creates a shelter. It's not super wide, maybe 20-30 feet wide, but it creates sort of a shelter, and underneath there is a circle of rocks, a circle of stones that are kind of natural looking, but were placed in a clear circle, and sort of dirt in this circle, and then in the center of the circle is this massive iron pillar. It's just plain iron colored, iron gray, maybe the size of a tree trunk, 4 or 5 feet wide, and going up maybe 10 feet high. There are no markings, there are no symbols. It's just an iron pillar. So that's what we find at the waypoint. So now the question is there an iron priest here? I think that's, let's say, 50-50 chance. If so, this is somebody that we can talk to. Actually, since it's find an opportunity, let's call it likely, 26%. We roll a 13. So there isn't an iron priest here, but there is this iron pillar. There is this very nice shelter that we can use to make our camp. And now we have this iron pillar, and Wiglaf is interested in this thing. And so I think it's worth seeing if we can gather some information about the iron pillar, right? Because maybe there's some clues. We have never, he hasn't maybe ever seen one of these. He's heard about them. He says, this is an iron pillar out here in the middle of the mountains, and I've never been up here before. So maybe they went to Highmount, but they took a different route, and the snow kind of blew him off track, and now he's kind of way off to the side, not where he normally would be. Let's see if he can find out anything about this pillar from just being here. And if he does, then I'm going to have to roll on action and theme or something to figure it out. So we're gathering information. He's rolling at plus wits. We don't have any bonds. But we're going to investigate a scene with the dog. So I'm going to let the dog sort of sniff around. Maybe somebody has left something here that the dog can find. So we're doing +1 with this, +2 for our wits. So we're rolling at +3. And we roll a 1 plus 3 is 4 against a 9 and a 7, so we fail. Now the 7, we could zero that out, but we'd lose all our momentum. Oh, yes. I think I know what this... No, it's a miss. It is a miss, and we pay the price. And here's what I think, right? When you go in to pay the price, you can reveal a new danger, right? A new danger is revealed. I think this inscrutable iron pillar has been defaced. It has upon it a blood red or dried blood, right? It has upon it, I know what happened. In dried blood, it has upon it the symbol of Angus, right? Obviously not drawn this beautifully, just the outline in blood and a few scraggles for where the worms in his mouth would be. And the blood is of an iron priest who is laying dead at the scene. So there's a dead iron priest, and there's this symbol of Angus, right? And now Wiglaf's concerned because he's already been accused of one murder, and now he's afraid he could be accused of another murder. So we need to get out of here. And we'll see if we can do that in the next session. I hope you guys have enjoyed our journey so far. I'm really enjoying this. I love making this stuff up as I go. I know I'm not like brilliant at it, and probably those of you who are watching would say, why didn't he like make this choice or that choice? Yeah, I'm not super great at coming up with this stuff spontaneously. I don't have a lot of practice at it, but I'm having a lot of fun with this. So we're in the woods. We've reached our first waypoint. We're in the mountains, actually. We've reached our first waypoint, and we've had an issue here. And I think what's going to happen, actually, is if we miss the next Undertake a Journey, Wiglaf's going to still be here, and somebody's going to find him, and they're going to think he's the guy who drew this on the Iron Pillar, and he's going to get into all kinds of trouble because he's already thought of as a murderer, right? But we'll see what happens in the next episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and until next time, I am Scarperlock, and this has been Ironsworn Antarctica.